Hey guys, back here again at home now with my review of New Japan's Destruction pay-per-view. Finally got a chance to see this over the last few days. You know, the snow and the ice outside has been cancelling a lot of stuff lately. I've had a bit more free time than I would usually have, so I finally got a chance to watch this in full. And not altogether surprisingly, this was a great show. You know, I don't think it'll be show of the year quality or anything, but I cannot be disappointed with a show that has this much good stuff on it. So definitely recommended to watch this pay-per-view. If I have time after the review of this show, I'll be talking about Noah's Joe Higuchi Memorial Show, which will be happening tomorrow, and definitely some interesting stuff to check out on there once it appears. So if I have time, I'll be addressing that. But let's start off with this pay-per-view. We started this off with Manabu Nakanishi versus Tama Tonga. This was an okay opener. I mean, you know, both these guys do things that on the surface are fun, but it's hard to enjoy them when there are so many other guys that do the same things a lot better than these guys do. You know, whether it's babyface Tonga or big dominant heavyweight Nakanishi, you know, there are far better guys who do the exact same stuff these guys do and have it be a lot more enjoyable, so we can't really get into this. You know, nevertheless, you know, for 6 minutes this was alright. 2 stars, no real problems with it, but moving on pretty quickly away from it. We went on to a 6-man tag, the first of 2 on this show. Giant Bernard, Karl Anderson, and Tiger Mask 4 versus Takashi Iizuka, Yujiro Takahashi, and Tomohiro Ishii. This was a good match. You know, the 6-man tags in New Japan have been taking a turn for the better recently. They've always been fun in an energetic kind of way, I suppose, but they've really starting to pack a lot of simple face and heel dynamics in these, and it makes it quite enjoyable, to be honest. If you've seen, there was a 6-man tag on the September pay-per-view, which was probably one of the most enjoyable 10-minute matches you're going to see this year. They had a really just good set of interactions within the match, and it was a lot of fun. This one was not quite as good, but it was still a lot of fun. This could have been even better, I think, if you had had more interactions in there with Bernard and Iizuka. You know, 2 guys who have been, you know, noticeable badasses. You know, it could have been quite fun to see them interact a bit more than they did, but we didn't get that. But it was still a lot of fun for the 6-man tag. The ending, I thought, was pretty well done. It worked on a kind of shock kind of way. It wasn't taken so seriously that you would think, why are they doing like a lucha kind of ending. It was kind of a quick shock kind of thing. It worked on that aspect, I think. So, you know, just a very good, a good fun 6-man tag. 3 stars for that one. And then we move on to another 6-man tag, which will be which is Jushin Thunder Liger, Wataru Inoue, and Tomoaki Honma versus Jado, Goto, and Masato Tanaka. This was not as good as the first one. It was still okay though. You know, Liger looked okay out there. The crowd were definitely into him. But you'd figure that the biggest thing we'd want to get out of this match would be a memorable Liger spot or a memorable Liger sequence, and we really didn't get that. So if we didn't get that, this match just, to me, just kind of falls flat as a result. You know, still okay. There was still some good action in it, but I really didn't think it was quite as good as the first one. 2 3/4 stars. It was still fine for what it was, I think. Not bad stuff there. We move on to the weakest match on the show. No, apart from the opener, the weakest match on the show, but weak in the sense that I don't want to see this match anymore. Tajiri versus Toru Yano. You know, these guys have been feuding since June. They've had at least 2 singles matches that I can think of before this. The matches have always been at least fun, but this has definitely run its course now. I mean, it's pretty much the same match again. It's gotten boring in my mind. It was okay, but I just didn't really get a lot of fun out of this, you know, because I've seen them do this pretty much same thing at least two other times before, maybe even more. It feels like it's been just non-stop the same thing over and over. The ending was pretty entertaining, I guess, but I think I've reached the limits of what this match can do for me, so 2 1/4 stars for that. Very mediocre, not really much of anything. But then we get to the really good stuff on this show, and for a lot of people, the reason why they were going to watch this show. If you have not watched it already, you're probably interested in this show because of this match alone. That is Golden Lovers of Kota Ibushi and Kenny Omega versus Apollo 55, Apollo Gogo, Prince Devitt, and Ryusuke Taguchi for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team titles. Okay, if you've been following my ratings for a while now, you'll notice that I've been down on a lot of junior stuff recently. I didn't think that Devitt and Omega was great, didn't think that Kenta and Kanemaru was great, didn't think that Davey and Kanemoto was great, and for those of you who've seen the final of the NTV Cup, which was Aoki and Kenta versus Edwards and Strong, not only did I not think that match was great, I really didn't think it was very good either. So I've been kind of down on a lot of this stuff recently. This match, though, not only did I think it was great, I thought this was just a classic match. You know, I don't expect it to be remembered much in 6 or 12 months or anything, but I think it deserves to be, at least among juniors matches. You know, they struck the perfect balance here between putting the guys in a situation where it felt spontaneous and preventing it from descending into, you know, directionless clusterfuck. You know, not too many pinfalls. The tandem moves, I thought, were extremely well done. You know, it was just a fantastic match. Just so much fun to watch, and it did feel like a big deal when Ibushi and Omega won. So, honestly, I have no problem at all giving this a rating that rivals matches that might seem a lot more important than this one, because just based on fun, this match was awesome, I think. You know, it's not going to get into a top 10 or anything, maybe a top 20, but that's just a maybe. But just on pure fun factor, this was an awesome match to watch, I think. 4.5 stars. I'm going to go out and give it that. Just based on how much fun I had watching this. I was shocked by how much I liked this, just based on kind of how down I've been on some of this stuff recently. I loved it. So definitely the match of the night and the main draw to check out on this show. We move on to a New Japan vs. Noah tag team match. Yuji Nagata and Koji Kanemoto versus Go Shiozaki and Atsushi Aoki. This was a little strange, actually. If you've been following me for a while now, you know that I'm kind of quite inconsistent with the inter-promotional stuff. Sometimes I'll love it, sometimes it'll disappoint me. This was one of those times where I just kind of didn't get the New Japan versus Noah atmosphere, and I call it strange because this started off so well. I thought this was really starting off to be this great classic match, but just somewhere in the middle it just kind of lost its fire. It just kind of lost its intensity. And you know, Nagata, I'll say this, Nagata was in his element for most of this. I think he was the star of this match, but there weren't really a lot of sequences here that I really felt like I was watching this important, big inter-promotional match, really. You know, it didn't feel like a big deal. I kind of felt somewhat disappointed after this was over. You know, there was definitely some good points to this, definitely gets a very good rating, but this definitely had the potential to be a lot better. I'm going to probably say this is probably the only disappointment of the show. Everything else was kind of on par with what I wanted, or maybe slightly under. This kind of was substantially under par, I would say. Definitely had a lot of potential and didn't really get to that level, but still a very good match. 3.5 stars there. We move on to Hiroki Goto versus Shinsuke Nakamura. If you've seen their previous 2 matches this year, I think they've had 2. These guys have great chemistry together. You know, I'm not Hiroki Goto's biggest fan because I don't really like his moveset that much. I think it kind of makes it, well, I don't really like it that much. But I do think he's capable of great matches, and Nakamura is one of those guys he can have a great match with. And this was not a great match, though. The Nakamura fan in me did want to enjoy it and was trying to enjoy it and was getting as much enjoyment out of it as I possibly could. But, you know, the middle portion of this was kind of dull, I have to say. It did pick up a lot during the finishing stretch. The finishing stretch on this was just great. You know, give Goto credit. He did come out with some really good stuff towards the end, and it did feel like he got a very hard-fought victory when it was all over. So, don't get me wrong, there was a lot of good stuff to get out of this one, and a bit of a different match from the last 2, which I appreciated, but there's a lot of filler to wade through to get to the good stuff about this one. So I wouldn't say it was a great match. Definitely a very good match, though. No problems, really not. Probably could have been a little better, but we've seen this match twice already this year, and we've kind of probably reached the limits of what this match can do, at least for a while anyway. Give it a bit of time before we see this match again, and maybe it'll reach a great level once again. Moving on to Hiroshi Tanahashi versus Tetsuya Naito. I'm a big Tanahashi fan, as I'm pretty sure I've said that before. On that basis alone, I enjoyed this, but the only thing carrying this in my mind was the limb work, and that's not as exciting as okay, put it this way. Compare this match to the final of the G1 Climax, and you might kind of spot the difference I'm trying to highlight, trying to get across here as to why I didn't really enjoy this as much as I thought I might have. You know, it was a little more methodical than I would have liked. You know, they were doing a lot of things right, a lot of examples of good pro wrestling, but it's not the sort of match you're on the edge of your seat for. You know, it's not in my opinion at least. So not a very good rating, not a great rating for that one. I wasn't really expecting great things. I thought it could reach a great level, but not a fantastic level. So I wouldn't say I was overly disappointed in it, just not as much as the Tanahashi fan in me wanted to mark out for this, because it wasn't a mark out kind of match. So 3.5 stars for that one. Which brings us to the main event of Togi Makabe versus Satoshi Kojima for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. The first portion of this match was built up pretty similar to Makabe's defense against Tanaka, with the outside brawling, the table spots, the expressionless heel in dominant position. The difference here, though, I think, was the quality of Makabe's comeback was not as important as it was against Tanaka. That's what prevented the match against Tanaka being great, in my opinion, and even though Makabe wasn't any better on that level here as far as making a comeback, it wasn't as important, and it didn't get a lot of focus, him coming back from Kojima's dominant position in the end. It didn't get a lot of focus. You know, the most important thing in this match was the build up to the ending, where where Kojima would win. And this match succeeded on all counts in achieving that. You know, they had a very good, I think they were both very good judges of crowd involvement in this one. You know, the show had a good crowd from beginning to end, don't get me wrong, but they were very hot for the main event, and the action slowed to build anticipation at just the right moments, I think. You know, Kojima was resisting all of Makabe's normal methods of winning, and he won the match in a believable, brutal fashion, you know. Kojima's lariat isn't fantastic compared to some others you could mention, but they do a great job of building up to it, so that's all you can really ask for. So I would say great match there, 4 stars there. Overall, great pay-per-view. Definitely recommended to watch. Definitely recommended to check out. Well, probably definitely one of the top 5 New Japan shows. Definitely one of the top 5 New Japan shows, and maybe one of the top 5 Japanese shows this year. So there is that. Having just timed myself, I can safely say that I do not have a good enough time to talk about Noah's Joe Higuchi Memorial Show, but I will talk about pre-match expectations in my inevitable review, which will come as soon as the show becomes available for viewing. That's all from me in this video then. I will talk to you guys later. Peace.